We'll do it live.
Okay. Well, no.
We'll do it live. It. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Jared Johnson, Dr. Jared Johnson.
That's right. Put some respect on
Good to see
it.
you. You paid a lot of money for it. Good to see you here on a Monday. Big week. I can't believe we're already here, man. We spent so much time talking about
What? Big week? What's going on?
Yeah, there's a decent game happening in Ann Arbor this weekend. I hear Fox Big Noon is going to be there. College Game Day is going to be there.
Oh, my bad.
There's a lot going on this weekend.
I thought you were talking about Michigan State playing Maryland at Ford Field. There's tens of people going to be at that game.
That's
they're giving away tickets.
Yeah, you buy a ticket, you get like 8 for free. They're just trying to fill the damn stadium.
You want? Be a bunch of homeless people in there and shit. Come stay warm. Watch a shitty game. The homeless guy's gonna leave and go back outside. Like, never mind.
You're like, nah. I'd rather be in the cold than watch this.
Not worth
I can't
it.
sit here and watch this brand of football. Good Lord.
That's a
big weekend this week. Like, it's crazy to me that it's already here because we spent so much time in the off season waiting for the season to get here and then kind of making our predictions and projections. And you look at this roster, you got a true freshman quarterback. You got a lot of true freshmen all over the place in starting positions, right? Young guys in starting positions. And you wonder what this team was going to do this year. You looked at the schedule. You saw Nebraska out there week 4 on the road without Sharon Moore, Oklahoma, USC. There were some opportunities for this team to stumble. But Jared, as we move here into the final game of the regular season, it kind of feels like this thing has played out exactly how we thought it was going to play out. Now, granted, maybe some of the wins and losses might have been slightly different depending on how you projected things to go out. But overall, Michigan's sitting at 9-2 at this point of the season. I think that's where most of us thought they would be. And now here we are on the eve of the game. Well, I guess we're not quite there yet, but happening this weekend, and Michigan is playing for an opportunity to, I haven't looked at the latest breakdown. Is there still a shot for Michigan to get into the Big Ten championship? I know the college football playoff is still on the table, but is the conference championship still on the table?
Yep. So the way that works, last I looked, is so they obviously beat Ohio State, and then they need Oregon to lose to Washington. Would be what it is. So it's an 8-5. I mean, is it feasible? Yeah. But again, I'm still saying, who cares? Don't even get in the Big Ten, because if you lose that, now you got 3 losses. I don't know if it's even worth it.
Well, if we're really talking about playing smart, we haven't said anything about the Maryland game at this point. So maybe we should. But before we talk about what we saw this past weekend here, I just want to say, like, if the game really doesn't matter, and I guess you're trying to be smart about things in this new era of the college football playoff, like, if you're Ohio State, do you even play Jeremiah Smith? Do you even play Julian Saint? Or do you just sit these guys, make sure you rest them up and protect them so that they're good to go for the college football playoff? Because we know this game really doesn't matter, right? It's all about the national championship. Jared, if you're Ryan Day, are you sitting some of your key guys to make sure they don't get injured?
How drunk are you?
Not drunk enough, I can tell you that.
I mean, hey, I love the strategy, Ryan Day. He should certainly do that. I mean, it makes no sense. Somebody gets hurt, and they don't care about gold pants down there. They don't care about anything.
Doesn't matter. None of it matters. That's what we heard last year, right? It didn't matter. It's all about the national championship. There's a reason why your top guys are going to play this final game of the regular season, even though you're guaranteed into the college football playoff. And we all know what the reason is why. Jared, before we get into that game, let's talk about what we saw last weekend on the road against the Maryland Terrapins. This was a game that you were terrified about. You talked about it all throughout the season. You said, Maryland is going to be a problem. I'm terrified of the Terrapins. It's a trap game, on and on and on. Boy, oh boy, sitting back watching that game, I was watching it from the home. You were in a bar, lit, drunk. I don't know how many beers deep you were. We walked away from feeling the same general thing, that Michigan really went out there in College Park and handled its business. And I felt, once again, for the second week in a row, I felt really good about what I saw. Jared, what was your biggest takeaway from watching watching Michigan handle the Maryland Terrapins this weekend?
Yeah, we were saying before, just business. They came in and just said, hey, we're not going to waste time here. We're not going to punt. We're not going to turn it over. We're just going to be efficient. We're going to get in and get out, It was workmanlike, So Sharon's jacket made sense for that game. It felt like they just, nothing was personal, but hey, we got things to take care of, and we're going to get out of here and get back to Ann Arbor and get ready for a game that only one fan base cares about. So,
I mean, it was very blue collar. It was very methodical.
Yeah,
some of the biggest things I took away, Bryson Cusdahl, this guy, I mean, you're talking about Michigan now with key injuries at the running back position. You're down Justice Haynes. Obviously, Jordan Marshall could have went against Maryland, but they opted to keep him out, which is a smart decision. But to be able to go to Bryson Cusdahl, who's a guy who was was he ranked when he was a recruit?
No,
right?
No, he was
wasn't on anybody's radar. And here he is. He steps in some key moments down the stretch for the Michigan Wolverines against Northwestern and now against Maryland. And he takes care of business. And I saw a lot of people giving shout out and credit to Tony Alford, Michigan's running backs coach, came over from Ohio State. He took a lot of heat because he was struggling on the recruiting trail. And, Donovan Edwards was struggling. And can Tony Alford develop guys, yada, yada, yada. Look at Michigan's running back room right now and tell me that isn't the deepest, most productive running back room in the country. And when you look forward to the Ohio State game, I mean, just imagine how different things would feel if you had a healthy Justice Haynes right now paired with Jordan Marshall, and then you got Bryson Cusdahl in there. I know that's not how it's going to work, but that just speaks to how deep that room is, how dangerous that room is. And Cusdahl, obviously, it looks pretty damn comfortable in being the feature back behind that Michigan offensive line. And that's another thing that stood out to me. Give credit to this offensive line, because in the early part of the season, we could see the struggles. We could see some of the inexperience and some of the things that you get with the younger guys up front. And as the season has progressed, they have obviously found their groove. And so I thought the offensive line put together another solid performance.
Agreed.
And then the aerial assault. And I've talked about this now for the last couple of weeks, that I just wanted to see some consistency through the air. I wanted to see Bryce Underwood, that connection between McCulley and Andrew Marsh. I wanted to see that develop a little bit going into the Ohio State game. And Jared, I feel like these last 2 weeks, I've gotten exactly what I've asked for. Andrew Marsh is an emerging star. I don't even know if emerging is the right word at this point. I feel like Andrew Marsh is just a star. But that passing attack with Donovan McCulley, Andrew Marsh, and even Marlon Klein was getting into the action against Maryland. And so it was good to see him making plays out there. And then third down conversions for the second week in a row. Third down conversions for the Michigan offense have been stellar. I'll get into those numbers in a little bit. And then I thought the play calling from Chip Lindsey. I thought play calling last week was really great, and I thought play calling against Maryland offensively was great. And so credit to Chip Lindsey for that. A couple of concerns that I had. Number one, and I saw this on social media, a lot of people picked it up, the defense right out of the gate, once again, just seems that for whatever reason, that first drive, the defense just, it takes them a drive to settle in and figure out how to make things work. They let Maryland go right down the field and put 7 points on the board. The other thing that stood out to me, obviously the injury stuff. Look, man, this is one of those things where it's like you got to play your guys. You want to make sure you're smart with it. But to watch Max Bredesen get injured and go on crutches and be in a boot, and it sounds like if you listen to Sharon Moore, it's improbable that he plays this weekend. You never want to see anybody get injured. But if you're talking about guys that you absolutely want to have suited up and on the field for Michigan, Ohio State, Max Bredesen's got to be at the top of your list. And so for Michigan to go down Bredesen the week before you play Ohio State, like that is a significant loss. And then the last thing that stood out to me was Dominic Zavada. Last week he struggled in Chicago, missed his first two. I get one of them was from 60 yards out. Yep. And so, that's kind of one of those 50-50 deals. You're playing in a bit of a different environment. I talked to you about this before, that the conditions on the field were just wet and sloppy. I don't know how much of that played a factor. But then Zavada comes out and he's the hero, knocks through the game winner. He's now 4-4 in his collegiate career in game winners. And you think, man, he gets that big kick. He's back on track. Things are working for Zavada. And then you get to the Maryland game and we see some of those same inconsistencies showing up once again. And so those are the biggest concerns for me, are the injuries, the inconsistency with Dominic Zavada, and then the defense right out of the gate looks a little bit shaky. And so those three things going into this game against Ohio State make me a little bit concerned. But I'll go back to what I saw in the offense. I'm going to try to be a glass half full type guy tonight, Jared. What I've seen from this offense over the last two games, I feel really good about. Are you in the same boat as me? I know you weren't so big on the whole passing thing because we know that the Ohio State game is won in the trenches, and the team that runs the ball the best typically wins. But
23 years in a row, just saying.
There you go. But tell me, like, I guess, do you have a little more confidence in this Michigan offense now from what you've seen over the last 2 weeks, particularly that connection between number 19 and number 4?
Yeah, I do. And it's, for me, it's not even as much 19 and 4. It's the fact that McCulley got going, like you said. I know you've been big on him, and they started running post routes and getting slants and getting him in the middle, which I loved. Stop getting him on the sideline. That was fantastic to me. Marlon Klein, made an appearance, made some plays, and he's being vocal again in social media, talking about the game. Like, seems like he's a little bit more fired up, which is huge. We're going to need him. The passing attack is there. We saw it all year. Bryce had some throws, right? I felt like most games he would just at some point make a pass and you'd be like, dude, what was that? It's incredible. And now he's kind of putting it together. They feel a little bit more comfortable. Offensive line is doing a lot better. And I'll tell you, as much as Bredesen, that hurts losing Bredesen, I also have been thinking all year about one thing that announcers have been saying repeatedly, and I've been watching, is if you want to know where Michigan's going with the ball, follow Bredesen. So some of the defenses we played, Oklahoma was pretty good, right? USC had a good game, but this Ohio State defense is next level, right? They're 2023 Michigan level type defense right now. Does it actually hurt having him on the field? Because if they're gonna read that, this is a talented defense. They're gonna, unless you run the opposite way. I don't know. I'm glad that, of all, you don't want Bredesen out, but of all the guys, I mean, God, if you would have lost a Bryce or you would have lost a Marsh or you would have lost a Marshall, like, I think that unfortunately, he can still be that vocal leader, from the sideline. He can still fire the guys up, you know what I'm saying, without taking so much out of the game plan. You know what I mean? I feel like, unfortunately, it's sad for him, especially as a senior. You wanted him to win that game, but I think he's a good leader, and he'll still be a solid leader. Now, I'd love to have him back. I'm getting roasted right now in the comments, but God, stop it.
Listen, I applaud you for trying to be so positive and optimistic about Max Bredesen getting injured, trying to find a way where it's like could be actually a good thing, so that
it's not a good thing. That's not what I was saying. I'm just saying. I mean,
you said they don't know where the ball's going. If you want to know where it's going, follow Max Bredesen. I get it. I love
though. Like 99% of the time, it's the facts. And
I applaud the effort, Jared. There's no doubt about it. But yeah, I mean,
I'm signing off now. So
all joking aside, you 100% want Max Bredesen on the field, and it sucks. And it's one of those things where, again, like I said before, like these guys got to play. You have them on the roster for a reason. You put them on the field for a reason. And you just hate to see something like that happen. And unfortunately, that's where Michigan is. And so it sounds like the Wolverines are going to be without Bredesen next weekend. But the good news is Jordan Marshall should be back. Samaj Morgan is available. You can take what you want out of that. I prefer to have Andrew Marsh returning the punts at this point. I prefer to have Andrew Marsh doing the special teams things. If you can find a way, I guess, to incorporate Samaj Morgan into the offense. But in a game like this, the mistakes have to be at a minimum. You can't afford to make mistakes. And unfortunately, with Samaj Morgan, we have just seen some costly mistakes. And I don't know that, a lot of it's on him. Some of it's on him. Not all of it's on him. But at the end of the day, mistakes are mistakes, and you can't have that against Ohio State. Rod Moore, obviously going to be out for this one. And then obviously no Justice Haynes as well. And so for the most part, Michigan is going to be pretty healthy going into this one, which is exactly what you want to say. The last thing that I'll say before we move into the Ohio State game is the last two games, Jared, just thinking about things that make me feel pretty good. And I get it. It's Northwestern and Maryland, right? So they're not going up against world beaters here. Maryland, one of the worst teams in the Big Ten Conference, on a 7-game losing streak after the loss of the Michigan Wolverines. But Michigan over the last two games combined, 17 of 28 on third down, Third down was an issue for this Michigan offense early in the year. They're 17 of 28 over the last 2 games. How about this? Bryce Underwood over the last 2 games, a combined 37 out of 55 for 495 yards and 2 touchdowns through the air. Andrew Marsh over the last 2 games, 17 receptions, 265 yards and 2 touchdowns. And for the Michigan offense as a whole, over the last 2 games, 939 yards of total offense from this Michigan group. And so I think when I look at that, we know that Michigan can run between the tackles. We know that Jordan Marshall is going to be able to get his. And thank goodness you know what you've got in Bryson Cusdall, because that's a large mystery for like a good portion of the season. And now down the stretch, you know that you've got another guy there. So I think that 1-2 combination, Cusdall is a slept-on running back. When I sit back and watch him and his quickness and how hard he hits the hole and his shiftiness, like, he's a good running back. He's the type of running back that I think can start on a lot of Big Ten teams elsewhere. And the fact that he's third on the Michigan depth chart just speaks to how deep that room is. And we've said this before, you're going to be adding Savion Hyder that room next year. You don't know what Justice Haynes is going to do with the injury. Maybe he goes pro, maybe he comes back. But either way, this Michigan running back room is just so incredibly deep. And then when you combine that with the fact that now Bryce Underwood has a little more confidence through the air. Now Andrew Marsh is entering this game not as like a maybe sort of kind of guy. Andrew Marsh is going into this game as a superstar. That's how I view him. And a lot of that's coming from what happened in Wrigley and what he continued to do in Maryland. And so I feel really good about that. Overall, despite some of the injuries we've seen, I feel like this Michigan offense is exactly where I want them to be heading into this game. Defensively, look, I know that there's some inconsistencies there, and this defense is kind of hit or miss sometimes, and I'm a little bit concerned with that. But overall, I think that pieces-wise, they've got all the guys they need to be able to at least, as much as you possibly can, keep that Ohio State offense in check. Get some big hits, give them something to think about, get physical with Jeremiah Smith, get Jayshon Barham coming off the edge and lay the wood on Julian Sand. That's one thing. I guess this is the transition in the Ohio State conversation. I can't shake this feeling, Jared. I can't shake this feeling that on Saturday, number one, Jayshon Barham is going to get a clean look off the edge, and he's going to lay a vicious hit on Julian Sand, and I think it's going to change the complexion of the game. We haven't seen Sand really get hit very hard. You talked about that on the previous podcast. He's not really sacked very much. I think Jayshon Barham is going to get to Julian Sand, and I think it's going to rattle that kid. And when you get into the big house with 115,000 people looking at you, and you take a big hit from number one off the edge, and you think, oh shit, we're human, and here we are in it again against the Wolverines, a formidable opponent. I just think things can go sideways for the Buckeyes. And so when I think through this game, I don't know that I have any less confidence going into it than I've had the previous 4 matchups.
You were not confident last year. Stop it. Nobody was.
Yes, I was.
Yes, I was. You know 100%. We were friends, right?
100%. I was confident.
What was
as confident as I could be with what we had to offer.
You didn't predict a win.
I don't know. I'd have to go back and I'd have to go back.
I know you did, my friend. None of us did. I mean,
you can't say that for sure. I can't remember exactly what I predicted. I don't know. Did I predict it last year? I can't remember.
Yeah, but no, I'm with you, man. And I agree. I think that hit on Sand. I watched Ohio State again this week, just to make sure, and he didn't get touched, man. Like his jersey looked like it came fresh out of grandma's friggin' laundry bin. Like it was crisp. It was like these. I'm telling you, and I'm watching the game. Like this guy. Not only did he not get hit, I don't even think he got pressured. I was trying to find a pressure, and there was nothing. This kid has been just a statue for the whole. He doesn't have to run. He doesn't have to do anything. So we haven't seen this kid run. He's going to get out on the edge and get crushed by Ernest Hausman if he's there. Hopefully he's there, or Sullivan or Rolder. Like this kid's going to get hit probably for the first time all year. I even go back to the Texas game. They pressured him. But I think they only got 1 sack that game. Like there wasn't, he hasn't seen anything. You know what I'm saying? I mean, in 10 games, he hasn't seen shit for pressure. So I think that, Michigan you imagine you bring Brandon Hillman in on a safety blitz, and because that kid just murders people for a living. You know what I mean? And I think the same thing.
Hitters.
Yeah, and I think the same thing with Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate. Like as much as we're pretty confident that Ryan Day was just resting his dudes that last game, because it's Rutgers and that's really what it looked like. I mean, they got some kind of nagging injury, right? And a couple more hits on that. Those guys haven't really taken hits either. And I see some people talking about Marsh getting doubled. I don't think that they're going to double Marsh. I think that they have confidence in their secondary. They got Caleb Downs back there. They got Devin Sanchez. So I guess now we're really going to see, how good is Marsh? Can he beat a fellow freshman stud in Devin Sanchez? I watched Sanchez pretty close the last game. He reminded me of Will Johnson as a freshman. He's sticky. I mean, granted, these are Rutgers receivers. I get it, but he was sticky, man. He was on dudes, and he wasn't, no pass interference. He's a solid kid. And then, like I said, you still got Downs back there, and we got to keep him honest. Like you've said all year, with the balanced attack, because you don't want Caleb Downs coming down that, sneaking up closer to the line. You got to keep him honest, and McCulley's got to, stretch the field a little bit. But yeah, I think it could be a really good game. I think they're pretty matched up.
I don't think it's as much of a Michigan at a disadvantage as like some Ohio State fans want you to think. I mean, I'm looking at the numbers. I heard Matt Leinart talk about it last weekend. The average ranking for the offense that Ohio State's defense has faced all year long, the average ranking is like 80th in the country. 80th in the country. So when you look at Ohio State, number one in scoring defense, number one in total defense, giving up 206 yards per game. They are number one in scoring defense, giving up 7.6 points. Listen, I don't care who you're playing in the Big Ten. When you're only giving up 7.64 points per game, that's impressive. No matter who you are, no matter who you're playing. So like, you've got to give the Ohio State defense credit, but at the end of the day, they haven't faced like an elite offense to this point in the season. And I'm not saying that Michigan is an elite offense, but what I am saying is that the Wolverines are number 10 in the nation in rush offense. They're number 99 in the nation in pass offense. They're averaging 196.9 yards per game, but 38th in total offense for the Michigan offense. Ohio State's offense is 25th in the nation. And so there's not like a big disparity there between the two. I think this one's going to end up being a lot closer than people think. And we talked about this last week. I said it to you, Jared, that I think the key for Michigan here is find a way to keep it close, find a way to keep it within a one-score game, and get into the fourth quarter being within a one-score game. And I think if you can do that, and I want to ask you this too, I think if you can do that, there's no question to me that the psyche is going to start to play a big role in what's happening there, because on Michigan's roster, every single player on that roster, I guess none of them know what it's like to lose to Ohio State. And then on the other side of the field, there isn't a single person on that Buckeye roster that knows what it's like to beat Michigan. They do know that the Buckeyes have lost 4 consecutive. They do know the pressure that's on Ryan Day. I know that he went out and won a national championship last year, but you got to believe, like, even a 5th consecutive loss at the end of it, are you going to have Ohio State fans chanting for him to get fired again? I don't think so. But I do think that this narrative will grow, and it's something that it just feels like, even though he doesn't have to win it, right, to win a national championship, it still feels like he has to win this football game. And so it's this real weird dynamic that's going to happen this Saturday. But if you get into the fourth quarter and it's a one-score game, I think that the psyche is going to play a big part. And I think Michigan will have the mental edge. And if it's a one-score game at that point, then it's clear that Michigan can play with the Buckeyes. Jared, how much do you put into that you look on paper and you look at the roster for Ohio State and it's like, damn, they look dominant, right? You got Jeremiah Smith, you got Carnell Tate, assuming those guys are actually going to play on Saturday. I'm not buying that bullshit. I think that they're going to play this whole question, whether or not they will. But when you look at the roster, offense, defense for Ohio State, you think, man, they've got a big edge in this game. But in terms of like the actual gameplay itself, Jared, I think that the psychological aspect of this is going to play a factor. And if Michigan can keep it within one score through 3 quarters, this one might swing toward Michigan.
Yeah, think about the last 4 games, right? Ohio State favored. Ohio State with an explosive offense. Right? Yeah. Ohio, all these things Ohio State had. Michigan's gritty. Michigan has had the rushing attack. I mean, if you're an Ohio State kid, I don't care what you're saying. In the back of your mind, you're thinking, we've been in this position 4 years in a row, and it has not worked out. And now we're going into the big house. Michigan's heating up, right? Like that offense. I mean, you said the passing 99th. Yeah, there was entire games, Michigan State, where we just took a decision that we weren't even going to throw the ball because we didn't have to. So that's kind of an anomaly ranking, right? I also think, I mean, Hartline's calling the plays, right? He's the offensive coordinator now. Yeah.
Yep.
So what does he want to do? He wants to throw the damn ball, right? He's a wide receivers coach. Like he wants to throw the ball. And 23 games in a row, if you don't rush the ball and win that rushing attack, you're not going to win this game. This is old school football, Big Ten. No matter what you want to be, you can throw it up Jeremiah Smith. That's fine. He got a touchdown last year, right? He did a couple things against us last year. We still won the game. I think that I hope that. What are they ranked? Do you have where they're ranked in rushing? I don't know if you pulled that or not.
Ohio State rush offense.
Yeah.
56th in the nation. So Michigan's ranked 10th in the nation with 223 yards per game. Ohio State has the 56th ranked rushing offense in the nation. They're averaging 170 yards per game. That's not their strong suit. It's not their strength, and we've known that about them all year long. I know that the numbers say that the team that, rushes the ball the best typically wins this game, but I just, after what we saw last year, and I get it, when you look at how many times Will Howard threw the ball last year, it wasn't like they were exclusively running, but I've got to believe that this time around, the effort is going to be, let's get to the perimeter, let's use our weapons, let's play to our strengths. And for Ohio State, that is Julian saying through the air, going down to Jeremiah Smith, going down to Carnell Tate. And I got to be honest, like as a Michigan fan, as somebody who follows this team, I do have a little bit of concern about this secondary up against Ohio State's wide receivers because they don't have a weakness in that area of their game. And so to me, if you're the Buckeyes and you're trying to make sure this thing doesn't get sideways and you want to walk out of Ann Arbor with a win, I think that's your play. Like, I get that Mason Graham isn't there and Kenneth Grant isn't there, but I still don't think you want to spend your day trying to run into the teeth of the Michigan defense because I think you're playing right into the Wolverines' hands at that point. And by the way, before you say anything, I just want to give a quick shout out here. Danny Hoos, I think it is, from the Facebook page. He's an Ohio State fan. He says, Buckeye fan here. Marsh is something special. You know what? I like that, Danny. I'm glad that we can say some positive things about each other going into this game because, like I just said, I mean, I can hate Ohio State. I can want to see Michigan beat the shit out of them, but I can also respect what they have through the air. I mean, it just is what it is. You can lie to yourself, but they have an elite passing attack. I just can't imagine that Brian Hartline and Ryan Day aren't going to want to lean on that on Saturday. Now, I will say this, and Jared, this is something that you have talked about a number of times. I don't know if you're looking at the weather report. A lot of people are scoping out the weather report, trying to figure out what's going to happen. It looks like 30s. It looks like a chance for snow. In your mind, is that the great equalizer? Like, I see a lot of people are excited about the potential that it could snow on Saturday. How much stock do you put into that in terms of how this game could play out?
I'll tell you this. Back in my heyday, a couple of decades ago on the gridiron, when it snowed and stuff like it mattered. But I don't know if any of you guys have ever put these gloves on that these receivers wear nowadays. They got Stickum built into them. So
it's unreal. If I had that back in the day,
bro,
if I had that back in the day,
you'd be in the Hall of Fame.
I would be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
I would be
for your local community, but
I wouldn't be here in this room recording a podcast with you. I can tell you that right now.
That's for damn sure.
Be on some yacht somewhere tropical, kind of like you.
1,000 there. Yeah, exactly. So no, these gloves. I mean, rain and snow is what I'm seeing, and so that is treacherous. I mean, the thing that affects even on turf is the ability for these receivers to make their cuts, right? Make their breaks. So that could be an effect. That could be an issue. Now, if it's crappy weather, does that certainly favor us? 100% that favors us because we don't rely on the pass as much as they do. And I'll tell you, I've been watching them the last 3 weeks. Ohio State. I've watched every game start to finish, trying to see what's going on. For that rushing attack to be at 170, I watched a game 2 weeks ago. And their best running back, Bo Jackson, had like 33 yards until the fourth quarter. And then he busted like a 44-yarder. And it seems like that they don't get that big run as much as Michigan does. So there are he was averaging like 2.7 yards per carry or some nonsense. Their rushing attack is just not there. These guys are so adept at the pass block on the offensive line. It just seems like their running attack is just not there. And they're circling through three running backs the whole game, trying to find a hot hand. Which I don't know if you want that either in a game like this. You know what I mean? You want a guy to settle in, be comfortable, get used to taking a hit. You don't want a guy sitting on the sideline, and then he comes in. I don't know. I hear you. We're going to see, but I don't know, man.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant. I agree with you. Obviously, those two are irreplaceable, but I feel like our edge rush has been better this year than it was last year. And what does that do? That's going to neutralize some of that passing attack. I think Sayan's going to take some hits, and it's cold out too. When it's nice and cold, those hits feel a little bit different. You know what I mean? You know, when you were playing football.
Exactly. I remember it like it was yesterday. And I can't shake this feeling. And I've felt this way about this guy for a while now. I have viewed Jayshon Barham as like a on the verge of being superstar kind of guy, just the physical traits that he has, the athleticism he has coming off the edge. Moving him to edge was obviously a phenomenal move, but he's just one of those guys where he is so physical and he is so aggressive that if he gets a clean look at number 10 on Saturday, I think it's going to rattle his cage. And I think that that's the type of thing that can completely change the dynamic of a game, where you got a young quarterback out there in a tough environment against a formidable opponent for the first time all year. I guess since maybe week 1, you can look at the Texas game and think that that was a formidable opponent, but that was in the friendly confines. They were playing in Columbus, right? So for Julian Sayin, for this Ohio State team, for Ryan Day, like, this is walking into like, lock the gates sort of thing. Like this is a place where they haven't won a football game in a long time. This is a game that comes with a ton of attention, and there's a lot of weight and gravity on this game. And I think all of those factors combined hopefully will make this an incredible viewing experience for everybody that's in attendance, everybody watching it on TV. Because I think that although you want to come out ahead, it's always great when it's a great game, right? And that's what you want to see, is a great game between two great teams. And you want to see Michigan come out on top. We're hoping that means get into the college football playoff, but that's not an automatic guarantee, right? There's some things that need to happen. I know that we're pretty much in agreement that 10-2 Michigan beat the number 1 team in the country. You think the committee, that's one of the benefits, I guess, to having a committee where it's not a computer making the decisions, but you got a bunch of people sitting in a room, and that's your final game of the year of the regular season is a win over the number 1 team in the country. There's going to be a lot of attention on the Michigan Wolverines. It's going to be hard to keep them out of the college football playoff if that happens. I am looking at the weather forecast right now on my phone. It says 31 degrees, cloudy with snow showers developing during the early afternoon, high of 31, winds 5 to 10 miles an hour. Chance of snow is over 50%, snow accumulations less than an inch.
Football weather.
So everybody's going to be paying close attention to that, and certainly if the snow starts to fall in Ann Arbor, the Michigan fans are they're gonna slop that up, because it takes you all the way back to the 2021 season, right? That was the season where everything started. That was the change, and it happened under the snow. And so that was also the game where I think CJ Stroud complained that the whole team had a stomach bug, and maybe that was the game. That was the moment where, like, have you noticed this, by the way, with that fan base, that like once that happened, the excuse is like, I don't think they've ever actually admitted to like losing a game fair and square. It was either the weather or the flu or Michigan cheated, or I don't know if you saw the latest one that came out there. There's a Ohio State fan that's claiming that Ernest Hausman, he launched this like religious podcast over the week, and he wasn't at the Maryland game. I don't know what the issue was. I don't know if it's an injury I'm not really sure what's going on, but the belief from some in Buckeye Nation is that Ernest Hausman took some time away from the team so that he could put a curse on Ohio State, which is why Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate are now injured, and things are not really working out well for Ohio State. Jared, do you put much into that, by the way? Do you think Ernest Hausman has that kind of power? Do you believe in black magic, I should say?
Do you really want me to answer this question?
I do. I am kind of.
I'm going to say yes, just in case it's real, dude. You got to hedge your bets on this. I don't want to say no, and then I get hurt. You know what I mean?
Somebody put a curse on you.
Yeah, me and Ernie are cool, but I don't know. I don't want to doubt the guy. He's probably watching. You know what I'm saying? I will share. I want to share something though that I think that is important, and it was a Tom Brady was talking about Ndamukong Suh when he played when he moved to the division. So he went to the Dolphins, left Detroit. Obviously, we didn't pay him. And he said that Ndamukong Suh, every time they played, regardless of whether he got to him or not, he would touch him. So Ndamukong would, he'd rush, whatever. He wouldn't get it. Brady would release it. He'd hit him. Just hit him on the back, something. And he said it just became like a mental thing. Like you start thinking like, God, he's there every play, right? And then he talked about like looking back at some of the games, and he would realize that he wasn't even close sometimes. He'd take those 2 steps and just give him a tap. So, I think that the Michigan defense has got to do that. I think that no matter what, they got to, if they get close to saying, they got to get in his face. They got to touch him. They got to do something to let him know, like, we're right here. You know what I mean? Because then you start speeding up that clock in his head. You know, maybe he makes a bad pass. Maybe, you know, he starts getting happy feet, starts running. So I think that's what they got. Everybody's been saying it, and I agree with all these incredibly intelligent fans that we have. You have got to, saying is the key. Like you said it, I think 4 times already. He's got to get hit. He's got to feel pressure, and he can't have a clean pocket. You know what I mean? And now you got both our quarterback, or our linebackers back, quarterbacks of the defense. You know, they're going to be Rolder and Sullivan are amazing. Like you said, you got Jay Sean.
How great is it that you've got both of those guys now back? Cole Sullivan, Jimmy Rolder back. I mean, there's a lot. You talk about depth at the running back position.
Sullivan 6'5". He's
a big dude. I remember
bigger.
I remember the first time seeing him down on the field, like when he was walking around. Of course, he had his pads on, his helmet on, but like the first time I was like in close proximity to him, I'm like, holy shit! Like Cole Sullivan is a big dude. Like they've got a lot of those guys on this Michigan defense, and I know I've said this a number of times, but you know, for me, it's Jay Sean Barham. I think he's the X factor on this defense. I think that with his physicality and his athleticism, I really think he can be incredibly disruptive off the edge. And I think if he can do that, you're going to put Julian Sayin in a position where he hasn't been there all year. And then I think that gives you a good chance. So, Jerry, let me ask you this. I mean, when you look at this game and you sort of envision the way you want to see it play out, some of the things that you think have to happen, some of the things you think can't happen, what's the biggest thing in your mind? Like you look at this game and you say either A, they absolutely have to do this, or they absolutely cannot do that. Like what's the one thing that stands out to you that is like of the utmost importance? If Michigan's going to win this game, it has to happen.
To me, it's you got to value your possessions, right? Like, and I know it's a cliche, turnovers, but against this offense, this Ohio State offense, you cannot give them a short field because we have a good defense. I think we do have a really good defense, but we can't put them in bad positions. I think that's the key. You know, we've got to possess the ball, control it. Yep, turnovers, Ralph. I agree. You know what I mean? It can't. And I'm okay with Bryce throws a deep pass and it gets intercepted. That might happen, but it's on their on the 10-yard line or something where it's like a punt. But we can't have a turnover deep, in our own field. So I think that's the key. Controlling the clock, which is part of that. I think Bryce is going to be ready for this too. I think that's a big thing. I think he's hyped for this. This is everything he wanted in season 1, right? You've never seen a freshman like me. Like, well, let's show it. He's done it the last 2 games. He's coming in pretty hot. And this is how you build your legacy at Michigan, right? I mean, imagine, freshman year and you beat Ohio State. Imagine.
And what a great time for it to happen too, because Michigan really hasn't, even though they looked, pretty, I would say Maryland was pretty close, but even then, like it wasn't a complete game, both sides of the ball start to finish for this Michigan football team. And so Michigan really to this point through 11 games has not played a complete game. They haven't played their best football game yet. And when you look at the way that things are lining up and what Ohio State does really well, what Michigan does really well, Jared, it just kind of feels like deja vu. Like we've seen this movie before and we see how it plays out. Michigan is a team that likes to be physical, likes to be scrappy. Michigan is a team that's ground and pound, will run between the tackles with Jordan Marshall, kind of like a throwback to like the way Hassan Haskins was back in the day, right? 5 touchdowns against the Buckeyes. You talk about guys becoming legends in this game. It just feels like it's kind of trending that way. And so I know like one of my favorite traditions in this one, and I don't know if you've seen this, but like has become watching the way Ohio State fans sort of like dissect the way Ryan Day is, or the way he talks, or like his mannerisms, or the look on his face as like some sort of indicator of what's going to happen on Saturday, right? Like, oh, did you hear the way Ryan Day answered that question? He's totally locked in. Like his players have said they've never seen him like this. They've never seen him like that. Reading into those things, some sort of like barometer on what's going to happen on Saturday. And inevitably at the end of the game, it always ends the same way. I feel like I'm living one big deja vu this week, Jared. Do you get that feeling? Do you feel like, and I probably you more than anybody else, like you've talked about this, it just feels like it's lining up the same exact way as we've grown accustomed to over the last 4 seasons.
Yeah. And here's the thing. So if Ryan Day has never been so locked in, like maybe he should be fired then, because what were you doing the last 4 times? You just weren't ready for it yet. Like we're gonna.
He looked pretty locked in when he was standing on the field there in Columbus, just sort of soaking in.
I think he looked lost at that point. That was shell shock right there.
They were lost,
I've seen that.
disassociated.
Yeah, he wanted to be anywhere but there.
Yeah.
No, it does. I mean, it's the same thing, right? Both teams' blueprints haven't changed. We're still going to be the ground and pound team. They're still going to want to throw it through the air. They still have the better receivers. We still have the better running backs. And it's a collision course of differing styles, and you're going to see who wins. And the last 4 times we have won. And even when you go back to when they were beating us, I mean, they were throwing the ball some, yeah, but it was their ground and pound too, right? They had great running backs that were putting up big yards. So another thing I'm going to look for in this game, and I hate to go back to your guy, but remember in the 21 game when Hutch had he had like 3 sacks that game, I think. Do you remember how they moved him out further so that he had that angle on those tackles because of his speed? I'm wondering if they're going to do that with Jayshon too. Move him out just a little bit further because that's so much harder for that tackle to get to him. You know what I mean? He gets that leverage, that speed, and that angle is tough for a tackle to get up and get around. So watch for that. See if we move our edges out a little bit deeper, because we're probably saying, hey, they're not going to run as much. They're probably going to pass, especially in passing situations. I think they're going to extend that defensive line out to make those angles, and hopefully it works.
That
chess game, my friend.
Right, that chess game, Wink Martindale, Ryan, like just the things that we're going to see on Saturday and the strategy that's going to come into play is I'm really excited to see it, because like I said, I mean, it just feels like the same movie. It feels like, what has served Michigan well over the last 4 years continues to serve them well, and Ohio State's pretty much coming in with the same things that have served them well, right? An elite passing attack, a quarterback that looks elite. Michigan coming in as just this bruising team that wins a lot of games ugly, but they find a way to win, and they run between the tackles and they punch you in the mouth. And I can't wait to see what this iteration of it looks like. Let me ask you this, because I'm thinking about this game, and I'm thinking about what's on the line for Michigan and Ohio State, but more so like for Michigan, it feels like there's more on the line, even though it almost also kind of feels like I guess, let me ask you that first before I go into this. Which team do you think is under the most pressure in this game? Here you have Michigan sitting on the outside of the playoff conversation, need a win to get into it, a win to possibly play for a Big Ten championship. On the other hand, you've got Ohio State, who's in the college football playoff, regardless of whether or not they win or lose, but you got Ryan Day sitting there. You've lost 4 straight. You're staring at the potential of a 5th straight loss. Which team has the most pressure going into this one?
Well, I mean, it's like me and you playing basketball. All the pressure's on me. I'm the athlete, right? Like, I'm the elite player here. So I'm just jacking up threes. I'm doing whatever I got to do to get the win.
Yeah.
I think the pressure is on Ohio State, man. 5 in a row for Ryan Day. That would be a nightmare, even if they go on to win a national championship. Michigan wasn't even. I mean, this is the all-world team, Ohio State, right? You got people saying this is the best team in the country, hands down. No question. I mean, they're already giving them the national championship. I think the Vegas line, I don't gamble, but somebody told me is plus 180 for them to win the national championship. Like, that's incredible odds for a team that's not even in the playoff yet. So I think the pressure's all on them. If Michigan loses, you got 8 freshman players on that offense. Like, our excuses are built in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it's all on them, man. Like, you got probably the best player in college football in Jeremiah Smith. You got a quarterback throwing 86%, completing 86% of his passes. A defense that's barely given up a touchdown a game. Like, what? How is the pressure not on them? How do they lose this game? It feels like how it was last year almost. I mean, we're better this year offensively, but
sure.
Last year they were supposed to come in and whoop us, right? I think McAfee was like, they're going to win by 50 and all these nonsense things, and it's still, it feels the same. The pressure's on them.
Yeah, I think I lean Ohio State in this one. And it's weird because, like I said, it doesn't matter. Like, I guess that's depending on how you look at things, that's either the benefit or the tragedy of where college football is right now, is that the outcome for Ohio State does not matter regardless. They're going to have a chance to play for a national championship. And so in some ways, like, that takes the pressure off, but we know how that fan base is, and we know what this game means. And the idea of an Ohio State head coach losing this game 5 consecutive times and retaining your job. Like prior to the college football playoff expansion, that was not a thing. You lose to Michigan 5 times in a row, you're out. And with playoff expansion and what we saw with Ohio State last year, obviously those days are gone. And it turned real quick from fire Ryan Day. Ryan Day's got to go, get Ryan Day out of here. We can't win with Ryan Day. He wins that national championship. And now all of a sudden people are looking at that Michigan game saying, yeah, you want to win it, but you don't really have to win it. And that kind of, I don't know, man. Like I said, I guess it depends on what side of the fence you stand on. Like I kind of like that game used to mean that much.
Yeah.
But when I think about, so obviously a ton of pressure on Ryan Day to get it done, get the monkey off his back. But either way, he's going to have a chance to bring home a national championship. But for Michigan at 9-2 right now, the difference between 10-2 and a potential spot in the college football playoff versus 9-3, a loss to Ohio State. You've had throughout the season people questioning Sherrone Moore, whether or not he's the guy. Maybe let me ask you that. How much pressure do you think is on Sherrone Moore to keep this thing rolling? Because we've seen it throughout the season that even when Michigan wins, I mean, we were talking about it not that long ago that Michigan was 8-2 and there were still people calling for Sherrone Moore to be fired. I don't think that segment of the fan base speaks for the majority. But it does seem that like when Michigan stumbles, it's real easy for fans to just point the finger at Sherrone Moore and say he's not the guy. How much pressure do you think there is on Moore to not only get this win, but after what we saw last year, 8-5, missed the college football playoff, things looked like a disaster last year. How much do you think, if you're Sherrone Moore, you got to win this game and you got to at least give Michigan a chance to be in the college football playoff?
I don't buy it at all. I mean, any fan that has any knowledge of what's going on, the roster restructuring, the reshuffling, the defense is very senior laden, right? They got a lot of talent, a lot of experience, but that offense just doesn't. I expected my high point for Michigan going into this season was 10-3 with a good bowl game win. I didn't think they're going to make the college football playoff. I didn't think they would beat Ohio State. I didn't think they were going to beat Oklahoma, and I thought they were going to lose to USC. I think you said Nebraska was your team instead.
Yep.
So they're right where I predicted them to be and where I expect them to be. And if they leave this season with 10-3 with all this experience that these kids got playing in big games, I'm good with it. Now, I don't want to blow out against Ohio State. God, I don't want to deal with that. But I just, as a fan that looks at this, analytically and where they're at, I mean, you got a bunch of 18-year-old kids running around out there that don't even know that they shouldn't be doing. Is good right now. I'm telling you, he doesn't even understand that he shouldn't be doing this to the team. He shouldn't be put up 189 points against anybody or 89 yards against anybody in the Big Ten. So no, I don't feel like the pressure's on Sherrone. God, wouldn't you be happy? Are you going to be happy if they hypothetically go 10-3?
Yeah, and I think that something that you said there is important because you don't want to see Michigan get blown out. And I really think that would be the one thing that whatever that group of fans are out there that always seem to like point the aim at Sherrone Moore when things don't look great or things aren't going the way you think they should go. If Michigan goes out and loses by 35, 40 points on Saturday, then I think you're going to see that conversation get real loud here toward the end of the season. But I think for most people, when you look at the progression of this team, and I think that there's a couple of things. There's a realization that Bryce Underwood didn't arrive as far along as we thought he was going to be, that there was more development that needed to take place for a young 18-year-old true freshman quarterback. But when you look at the way that this team has developed throughout the year, particularly on the offensive side of the ball, I think there's a lot to be optimistic for about the future of this program. And you've talked about it before a lot, Jared. Sherrone Moore has done a magnificent job on the recruiting trail. Now, granted, he has the assistance of NIL and being able to do some things financially that maybe weren't available to Jim Harbaugh for a long time. Or, we've talked about this before. Jim Harbaugh really wasn't receptive to paying a freshman quarterback $12 million to come to Ann Arbor. And so Sherrone Moore, I feel like, is putting all the right pieces in place to build a championship roster in Ann Arbor. And when you look at what's happening with Andrew Marsh, when you look at Jordan Marshall, who's only a sophomore this year, when you look at the development of Bryce Underwood, when you look at the fact that the offensive line is incredibly young, Michigan, aren't they the youngest? I think in terms of starters, youngest in the Big Ten Conference. When you look at the fact that is the case, and here they are at 9-2 with a realistic chance to once again beat Ohio State and get into the college football playoff, I just don't know how you can not feel optimistic. And if you feel optimistic, damn it, Jared, you got to give Sharon Moore some credit for that. I don't think it's perfect. Obviously, there's things throughout the season that we've looked at and said, why would you do that? Why wouldn't you do that? But just like players can develop and get better, we shouldn't forget this is Sharon Moore's first time as a head coach. This is his second year as a head coach. He's doing it at the University of Michigan. And so far, has it looked perfect? No. But has it been a pretty big jump from what we saw last year? Yes. And I feel pretty optimistic about where the program is headed with him leading the way. So that's where I stand on that. But still, a ton of pressure to go out, make sure that you're competitive. And if you can get a win in this one, you absolutely want to get a win in that one and give yourself a chance to be in the college football playoff. Let's do this. I'm going to ask you a question about this game in terms of where it would rank if Michigan can pull off the win. I want you to think about it a little bit. Let me run this quick commercial for VFW National Home. Jared and I will come back. We'll talk about where a win this weekend would potentially rank among the last four. Maybe we'll take some of your questions here, some of your comments before we get out of here. Give us one quick second. At the VFW National Home, the mission is to provide unwavering support to military and veteran families facing life's challenges. Because while the military makes great service members, it doesn't always prepare them for life after service. That's where VFW National Home comes in. Since 1925, the VFW National Home has offered families a safe, stable place to rebuild, keeping the family circle intact even when their service member doesn't come home. Today, VFW National Home continues that tradition with programs designed for the unique needs of veteran and military families, such as case management to help set goals for the future, educational, recreational, and enrichment opportunities, along with community resources and counseling, and even free housing and daycare. Through these services, they empower families to heal, grow, and create lasting opportunities for success, all in a positive, safe, and healthy environment. You can learn more about how VFW National Home is helping families reach their full potential at vfwnationalhome.org. That's vfwnationalhome.org. You know, Jared, ever since I started drinking out of this thing, so like I was never a big water guy, but ever since I started drinking out of this thing, I'm drinking like 4 or 5 of these a day. I don't know if it's because I feel like an athlete or what it is, but this Gatorade bottle has completely changed my life in terms of water consumption. I don't know. Are you a guy that drinks water? I know you're hammering the liquor and the beer, but are you a water guy?
That's ridiculous. I drink half my body weight in ounces per day. That's what you're supposed to do. Yes.
I'm on a journey here, and I just want to. I want to help people like you.
Listen, just because you put vodka in a water bottle doesn't. You're not tricking us, dude. Nobody.
All right, let's do this. I want to ask you this because I was thinking about it earlier today. No, it's not a Man-Mosa in a squeeze bottle. Jared, you know about the Man-Mosas, right?
I do, and you stole it from the sideline. These guys are roasting you. Nobody believes it's water. Tyrone, not water. Nobody believes you. At least I'm honest with it.
I was thinking about this a little bit earlier, and I wanted to just ask you because I'm curious. And I can see Matt Kirby's already fired his answer in here. Same with Matt Stife. I believe that's how you say it. Good to see you, Matt, in here. CJ Frazier says I need a nipple to drink water. Yeah, sure. I mean, it can't hurt. Can only help, right? I'm curious. When you look at the last 4 wins for Michigan in this rivalry, and each one of them have been big and, you know, they've carried their own meaning. I'm curious, where would a win this weekend with what's on the line, where these two programs are, where would you rank that among the last 4 wins? Where would this 2025 win stack up for you?
Man, I'm kind of with what Kirby had there, you know. I think 21 was good because, like you said, it started it, right? Yeah, so I like 21. Yeah, 24. I would put 24 at 2, I think, just because it was so, you know what I mean? It was just incredible. And just
24 at number 2. Wow.
Yeah, the shock on Ryan Day's face. Like, that dude thought he was going to get fired. And I'll tell you, I think that as crazy as Ohio State is as a program, if the football playoff hadn't changed, the fact that he's 0-4 and they wouldn't be going to the playoff with as a 2-loss team, he might have got fired. So, I mean, you know what I mean? There's a guy standing there just saying, thank God that I'm going to sneak my team in. So I think 21, 24, I think 22 and then 23 I expected to win. So to me, that wasn't, I wanted it to be worse. And then I think this one will be like I said, this one's just expected now, right? If they win again, you're just like, well, this is just what we do,
Yeah.
But I think the Natty one is lowest for me right now because it just, I just expected that. I didn't expect that team to lose.
Crazy.
What do you have it at then?
It's crazy. First of all, my wife's chiming in here. She says I'm grounded. I'm guessing this is for the nipple comment.
Yeah, you always do that. Yeah.
I can't imagine. I get in a lot of trouble when I do these podcasts. A lot of trouble. We're talking about nipples. We're talking about sexy wins. It's like after hours here, sports talk. Here's where I ranked it, and I want to walk through this to see if this makes sense or if other people are on the same page here. So I've got 2021 at number 1 because to me that was the pivotal one. That was the one that changed the entire dynamic of this rivalry. It's what started Michigan on its most successful stretch in program history. At number 2, Jared, I've got 2023. In Ann Arbor,
Wrong.
Michigan over Ohio State. And the reason I say that is because think about what was going on around the program at that time. Connor Stalions had been fired that year. There was this whole talk about cheating. Michigan can't do this. Michigan can't do that. If Michigan had gone out in 2023 and lost to Ohio State at home, that whole narrative about Michigan would have only exploded. And so I think Michigan had to win that game. That was a must win for Michigan. And because they got it done, that also allowed them to go on the incredible run in the college football playoff and finish undefeated 15-0 on the way to like the greatest the greatest season in program history. So to me, that 2023 matchup in Ann Arbor was critical because of what was on the line there in terms of the narrative surrounding the program. Keep in mind, that was Sharon Moore, acting head coach. That was, I guess, his sort of first win over Ryan Day in that environment. And then number 3, I go 2022 Michigan over Ohio State in Columbus. Reason being, Michigan hadn't won down in Columbus for like 20 years prior to that game. Yeah. And so being able to go into Columbus and not just win, but win it the way they did, dominate Ohio State, the big runs from Donovan Edwards, I thought it would just sort of solidified like, hey, 2021 wasn't just a fluke. Now we're coming into your building and we're going to do it again. So to me, I put that at number 3 on the list. Number 4 on the list for me would be 2025. I would put 2025 over last year, 2024. I get that 2024 was like, to me, 2024 was hilarious. Michigan really wasn't playing for anything other than pride. Ohio State was a 3-touchdown favorite. I get that it went sideways. I get that it was a huge upset. And then obviously everything that happened at the end of the game only added to the level and the weight of this rivalry. But at the end of the day, like there was nothing on the line in 2024 except for pride. Whereas this year, Michigan is playing for an opportunity to get in the college football playoff. So to me, I think that if Michigan gets the win this year, not as significant as 21, 23, or 22, but certainly I put it over 2024, even though last year was hilarious. I would argue that's the most hilarious win in the history of this rivalry. You got Davis Warren out there and Peyton O'Leary just carving up the Buckeye defense.
What? I'm sorry, you're going down on me.
What? Did I lose you?
Yeah, you lost me.
you were frozen on my screen with like your mouth just stuck open.
No, so to me, the 2024 game is so big because I think you play that game, and I don't even know what number. You play that game 100 times, I don't think the Wolverines win again. It's like, you know what I mean? Like that was just insane how that happened. That to me, that's why I put that one up so high. But I had a stroke.
Jesus Christ. Oh my God. Somebody's saying that. Well, dial up over here.
Look at Ralph says he smelled burnt almonds. That's a medical thing. Is that
a thing?
Is that a hair? Thing? I thought it was burnt hair. You smell burnt hair.
Listen, see, this is why I don't like talking about medical shit on the show, because if somebody like Ralph says smell burnt almonds, you know what I'm going to be doing now for the foreseeable future? I'm going to be looking around and smelling around. And if I smell almonds, it's over for me. So
you are a hypochondriac. Yes, my friend.
I really think I am. I'm coming to terms.
You are. That was a statement.
I'm in the midst of a midlife crisis. Did we talk about this on the podcast? I am in a midlife crisis.
We talked about it personally. Remember, you said you're in a midlife crisis, and I said that implies that you're halfway through your life, which I think you're much further along than that. And, and then you sent me back a thing that said, "Oh, you can have a midlife crisis from 40 to 60," which is ludicrous.
40 to 60, right? That's when it can happen.
You can have a midlife crisis for 2 decades.
I'm telling you, man, dude, the midlife crisis.
Can't put your ass on the couch all the time. You're gonna have a midlife crisis for the next 20 years.
I hope not. I'm hoping I can get through it. But you know, it's going to take a lot of therapy. Midlife crisis, though, it's real. It's a real thing. I'm trying to work my way through it. Shem says, what is it here? Chris has hypochondria and being a
hypochondriac. That's genius.
Am I becoming that? I'm afraid of that.
Oh my god! You guys are really putting shit in your head right now. Ignore them, Chris. I'm sure you're fine, dude.
What were you talking about? We were talking about Michigan, Ohio State.
Yeah, we were. And then I had a stroke, and it all went downhill. So I apologize for having a stroke on. I got to start taking baby aspirin or something. That's for a heart attack. I don't.
Anything else that we should talk about here on a Monday, the week of the game? I know that there were a lot of comments in here. I don't know that I might have missed. Here we go again. Here it is again.
There it is. I was waiting. There you go, Matt.
Single podcast goes by where I am not reminded about being bald. And once again, I will just say this for anybody out there that thinks that it's easy being bald. I just want you, Jared, I hope you understand. This is the shit that I go through. This is the stuff that me and the people like me, my bald brethren, we got to go through this every day of our lives. Somebody's got to mention about the fact that we don't have hair. That's why we're such a close-knit group. That's why we stick together.
Dude, I've been in public with you and people just stare and it's weird. I feel bad for you, man. Like, I just want to give you a hat.
They stare because they like what they see. Like, look at that. It's a good looking head. That's right. Eagles are bald too. Okay, we are losing cabin pressure. We are doing rails here.
Oh, we're losing control here.
Anything else that we need to talk about Michigan, Ohio State before we get out of here? We are hemorrhaging viewers.
I think we gotta let the fans know that Thursday will be a recording, right?
So yes.
Don't be coming on asking a bunch of questions. We're not ignoring you.
Yeah. So for anybody that I guess didn't see the show last week, the plan right now is this week we are going to go down, or I guess I shouldn't say down. It's up and over, right, to Selfridge Air Force Base.
Yeah.
We're going to take a look at the F-15s that are going to be doing the flyover for the Michigan-Ohio State game. We're going to get an up close and personal look at these machines. They're going to let me in the cockpit. Hell, they might even let me try to get one of these off the ground. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. It's like a $100 million aircraft. I don't know. I don't know how much.
You're billions. Nice try.
Billions for these things?
I don't know, man. I don't got it like that.
I got to get inside of one of those. But we're going to go down there this week. We're going to film some stuff down around the F-15s, and then we're going to be talking to some of the guys that are going to be doing the flyover. So Thursday's show will be a pre-recorded show. And then look, man, then it's the game. Then it's the weekend. I'll be there taking photos, and we'll see how this thing plays out. And then Jared, as far as I know, unless you're frolicking around the globe again, you'll be back on Monday, right? We'll be in these seats on Monday to talk Michigan, Ohio State.
Yeah, I'll be in Costa Rica.
You got another delivery you got to make?
I don't even know what Costa Rica is.
All right, so we will plan on being back here live on Monday to talk about
the predictions.
I guess we could. I haven't really put
the fans are doing it. Matt Kirby's got one, so
put me on the spot for a prediction here.
Go.
I'm going to need a couple about this. Holy shit! I haven't. This is the first time I have thought like, how do I see this
on a recorded pod?
How do you see this one playing out? I mean, I think it's going to have to be a low-scoring affair here. I'm thinking. Okay. I'm thinking 24-17 Wolverines.
Wow.
Okay. 24-17 Wolverines. They win it by a touchdown. I was leaning toward a Dominic Zavada kick to win it.
That's what I'm going with, baby.
Mentally, I just cannot put myself there.
Poetic. 27-24 Zavada kick to win it. From an angle, it's going to be an angled kick because he can't seem to hit those. So he's gonna bring it all back in. So 27-24. I think Bryce does some damage with his feet, and I think that's the X factor. But
you think Michigan puts up? See, that's the thing, though. Ohio State's giving up 7 points a game. We think the Wolverines are going to put up 24, 27.
Yes, because you know what I think is going to happen. I'm telling you, I think that they're going to. I think Sands going to have some turnovers, some uncharacteristic turnovers, because he's never had pressure. He's not had any pressure. I'm telling you, man. 3 games in a row I've watched. This kid could be sitting back there taking selfies as much time as he has to throw that damn ball. It's incredible. I was counting at one point, and I think I just walked to the kitchen, came back, and he was still messing around in the pocket. Like, He's
Listen.
never seen this pressure, dude. And I think
Jared,
he's going to throw some passes that are going to be intercepted.
I make this promise to you, and I make this promise to every fan that's here, and I make this promise to every fan in the stadium. If Michigan cannot get pressure on Julian Sayin, I will come off the sideline and I'll get pressure. I'll make sure that he feels the heat in the big house on Saturday.
It's just a 15-yard flag. Go out there and sack him one time, Chris. You're done for. You're a legend. 15 yards.
I'll be on Sports Center. It'll be phenomenal. It'll be great. All right, I've got it 24-17. Jared's got it coming down to a Dominic Zavada kick, 27-24. Look, man, I hope the next time we hop on here and do one of these lives, we're talking about a Michigan win. It has been really fun to do that over the last 4 years. And look, I know a lot of people have been looking at this game thinking it's runaway Ohio State. Ohio State's going to dominate. Ohio State's going to do this. Jared, to me, it feels like deja vu, feels like the same movie all over again. I can't wait to get into the big house and see how it all plays out. But I will say this before we get off the live here. I really appreciate everybody that tuned into the show here. The numbers were great. The activity was great. And we will definitely be back here on Monday to talk all about it. So until then, I don't know, look for me to be flying. Look in the skies for me to be flying over your heads in an F-15 here sometime this week. And if I make it through that, we'll see you back here on Monday. Take care, everybody.